Let's jump right into route summarization here and the lab, and you can see the networks again are 100, 101, 102, and 103 for the first octet, all with an 8-bit mask. And when you broke that down into binary and then determined the number of in common bits from left to right, you should have come up with 6. They have 6 bits in common because the 7th bit is a 0 for the first two networks, 100 and 101, and a 1 for the third and fourth networks, 102 and 103. So we have 6 bits in common, and when we add that up, it's 100, 0, 0, 0. That's it. Now the summary mask we know is determined by placing 1s in the mask for the in common bits and 0s for everything else. So when we convert that over in dotted decimal, that's 252,000. Bingo, we've done most of the work. Now, with both EIGRP and OSPF, the application of the summary is a little bit odd. You're not just going to go under router EIGRP 100 or router OSPF 1 and type summary address 100,000, etc. It's a little bit different with OSPF and EIGRP, and with EIGRP we actually advertise it on the interface. And I'll make sure to show this to you again when you're in the ICND2, but let's go ahead and bring that up, and the router got way offline there. Let's look at the routes right now that 3 is getting from 2. And we see 4 entries there, and we can actually knock that down to 1 entry. Let's go over to router 2 and do that. And we know what the summary address is. Now let's put it on the interface that router 2 is using to advertise them, and that is Ethernet 0. So let's do a conft interface 0 IP summary address EIGRP. The autonomous system number for this lab is 100. You'll learn all about that later in your EIGRP training. Then you put the address, and then you put the mask. And that's it. So let's go over to router 3 and run that show command again. Now give it a second if you don't see it, because this doesn't necessarily happen instantaneously. And you see right there, there's 100,000/6. So this is our summary, and that one route is now taking the place of all 4 of those routes. So you know what we better do? We better make sure we can still communicate with all of those other networks. These are the loopbacks I put over on R2. And there you go. So that's how beautiful route summarization is. Again, just take a little bit of care when you are writing your mask out. Come up with the network and the mask. That's the most important step, obviously. Then, as I said, you'll see this in your ICND2 studies. I'll make sure to do a bigger lab, and I'll include this particular route summarization. Just use the right command for your protocol, and then just test it when you're done. Always test it. And really, that's all there is to it. Just practice this, and I want to mention this now, and I'll mention it in the binary section as well. But the real key to speed with this, because everybody wants to do it faster and faster and faster, because I know the clock's running during the exam, but it's not speed you're after, really is accuracy. Speed follows accuracy. It truly does. And you know what makes you accurate? There's no secret here. It's practice. You can do all the magic whatevers and interesting who's and nots and whatever other tricks you want to use, because you have to learn what methods work best for you. You know, I teach the fundamentals in binary, and they've been successful for tens of thousands of people. If you want to incorporate another method in with my stuff, beautiful. You know, whatever works best for you. But the real key is practice, and I'll tell you this. I used to fall into this trap too of, you know, well, I'm going to practice my binary for 6 hours today. You know how that goes. You know, I'm going to practice for 3 hours and etc. And sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. You know, real life does not work out that way. What's always worked well for me is to practice 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there. Because I'll tell you, and just again, speaking realistically, we all have time we waste. Okay? And I'm not saying you can never go on the internet. I'm not saying you can never look at your favorite websites. But, you know, maybe not visit them so many times a day. When you find yourself about to do that, break that habit and say, you know what, for 5 minutes I'm just going to practice binary. You know, for 10 minutes I'm just going to write some routes out on a piece of paper without even really thinking about it and say, okay, let's break these down to binary. How could I summarize them? What could I do? That little bit of 5 and 10 minute practice really adds up. When you have consistent practice, that's what gets you there. Not a once a week or once every other week marathon, 6-hour binary marathon. Nothing wrong with that if you can hang in there for that long. I don't even think I could do binary for 6 hours, but you see my point. The point is consistent practice is better than huge bursts of practice followed by 2 weeks of inactivity, because it's just like anything. It's like driving. It's like riding a horse. It's like anything. The more often you do it, the better you get at it, and then you're doing things that you're not even thinking about. You don't have to think so much about, let's break all 4 of these down to binary. You're just doing it. You're just doing it, and you can do it. Anybody can do it with consistent practice. That wraps up our route summarization section. Let's head on over to the next set of videos, and I'll see you there.